Hello, and welcome to another episode of Yummy Data Science. In this episode, we are going to be talking about themes that students of my UMass public health class can do for their exploratory data analysis and visualization project. For those of you who are not my students, you could, and who are analysts at healthcare or life science companies, these themes are good deep dives and good ideas for um, real projects that are valuable. So these themes are given in order of difficulty. So recall that we have now two files. One is diagnosis, which tells you what diagnosis a person has as of what year. And then we have an inpatient utilization file that each row of that is either an ER visit or an inpatient stay. So one of the easiest projects you could do is you could look at the ER visits and you could figure out what are the top 10 diagnoses. And you could look at the principal diagnosis. You could also do it by ER, and you could look at which visits cost the most. So you could dive in that way. And then since we have about 8 years worth of data, you could deep dive into by year as well and see what the trends are. So one of the interesting things when you do trend analysis is obviously forecasting. So forecasting could be another extension, although that would not be for this project. Another theme that you could do is similar to the first one. And instead of looking at ER, now you're looking at inpatient stays. So with inpatient stays, we have yet another metric, which is length of stay. So you could be looking at inpatient stay by the top 10 diagnosis, by the length of stays, and you could also be drilling down into the trends for the 8 years. The third theme would be, and this would be for you to define logically, who are my high ER utilizers? So first of all, what does that even mean? Who are you going to call a high ER utilizer? Is it somebody who is in the 75th percentile of ER utilization or cost for that year? So you'd have to define it and then defend your definition. So once you define high ER utilizers, then you want to look at the comorbidities of those. And this could be many analysis. If we say, let's do comorbidities of high ER utilizers and let's define high ER utilizers by diagnosis. Okay. So this could be many analysis. And I know there are 30 students, so we will need many themes. Similarly, you could do comorbidities of patients with long inpatient stays. And these, again, you could break them up by diagnosis. So first, figure out how you're going to define a long inpatient stay. And then if you want to create further buckets of inpatient stays, well, let's have it by diagnosis code, the principal diagnosis code. Then the final theme is analyzing patient cohorts, and there are many variations in here. So there's one suggested pathway is to choose a diagnosis from the top ER principal diagnosis codes, select that cohort, and figure out what their patient journey and utilization has been. So, for example, let's say that the top 10 visits by diagnosis, one of them is stress or anxiety. So, you are now looking at the cohort of people who went to the ER for anxiety. So, you've created that cohort. Now, you look at that cohort and you look at their inpatient utilization and you study that and you visually profile that. Another pathway would be do the same analytics, but now instead of ER, you're focusing on inpatient stays. And there you could choose their diagnosis from their principal diagnosis code or from their DRGs and visualize this cohort. Another suggested pathway is to take the top highest cost patients and analyze their patient journey and their profile. So I hope that you learn a lot, and I will be so looking forward to working with you in each of with each of your projects. Thank you for listening.